Behind the simple facade of an old house in the quiet outskirts of Atizapan lies a labyrinth of horror that surpasses the wildest imagination. Within its walls, an unimaginable terror was revealed. Thousands of bones lay scattered, silent witnesses to the monstrous crimes of a man known as the Butcher of Atizapán. Andrés Filomeno Mendoza, a butcher with a dark appetite, concealed terrifying secrets behind his door. More than just murder, this is a tale of lost lives, mutilated bodies, and allegations of cannibalism that shook Mexico. Prepare to uncover the dark truth hidden behind the smile of a serial killer. Do you dare to enter this house of slaughter? In the heart of the Lomas de San Miguel area, in the city of Atizapan de Zaragoza, Mexico, lies Margarita Street. Once, perhaps, this street bustled with the activity of residents, the sounds of children playing, and neighbors chatting in the afternoon. But now, a quiet atmosphere envelopes it, as if the spirit of life has been forcibly drawn away. Only the occasional roar of a hurried car breaks the silence, speeding towards the Villas de la Hacienda or Cuautitlan Izcalli areas, as if trying to escape the mysterious aura hanging in the air. Most of the houses along the street appear empty, dark windows gaping like eyes that have lost their sight. Rumors whisper about the mass departure of residents, seeking peace in another city, or perhaps harboring a deep, unspoken trauma. Amidst the row of silent houses, nestled a property that once served as both the residence and livelihood of a frail 76-year-old man, Andrés Filomeno Mendoza Celis. The house and shop stood firmly at Block 37, Lot 19, Number 22, now an unwanted center of attention. However, the most poignant sight is the row of wooden crosses standing upright there. Their colors are striking, pink and yellow, appearing fragile yet bearing a heavy emotional weight. Each cross is inscribed with the name of a woman: Sandra, Brenda, Valeria, Maria Lucia, Fabiola, Cristina, Estefany, Lupita, Rosalba, Maria, Flor, Ingrid, Gali, and Alejandra. These names, now etched on simple wood, stand as symbols of lost lives and dreams tragically snatched away. Below them, a collection of glass and plastic cups blackened by the remains of burnt candles, remnants of the grief and solidarity of city residents who gathered 2 years ago. That protest was an outpouring of anger and sorrow over the brutal murders and alleged cannibalism committed by Andrés Mendoza over 2 decades, between 1990 and 2021, leaving a deep wound in the Atizapan community and serving as an eternal reminder of unimaginable crimes. Margarita Street, once just an address, now holds a dark narrative of loss, horror, and the fragile hope for justice. On May 15, 2021, Mendoza was arrested in Atizapan de Zaragoza, State of Mexico, when he was found with the dismembered body of a woman named Reina González Amador, who had been reported missing the day before. According to the investigation, Reina had previously asked permission from her husband, Bruno Angel Portillo, a police officer in the city of Atizapan, on May 14, 2021. She was going shopping with Andrés Mendoza to the city center to buy some cell phone parts for her shop. The 72-year-old man knew Reina González Amador well, a 34-year-old woman who occasionally helped him with his business and even shared family vacations with him. That is why it seemed natural for González to tell her husband that she would be accompanied by Mendoza to the city center to buy product supplies for her cell phone stall. However, that day the woman was reported missing. Her husband, Bruno Angel Portillo, a municipal police chief in the state of Mexico, searched for his wife's whereabouts in several places in the city. He then took the initiative to track his wife's cell phone location and public CCTV footage. From the investigation, Bruno learned that his wife was last seen near Andrés Mendoza's house. He went to Andrés Mendoza's house and had an argument and a fight. Bruno managed to enter Andrés Mendoza's house. He was shocked to see a horrifying scene under the bed. His eyes glazed over when he saw human body parts believed to be his wife, Reina. Bruno then left the house and reported his discovery to the police on May 15, 2021. Since then, police and officers from the FGM, Attorney General's Office of the State of Mexico, launched a thorough investigation and search of Andrés Mendoza's residence. At the location, authorities focused their attention on a basement situated directly beneath Mendoza's bed. Investigators were astounded by the grim discovery of 17 graves containing the remains of female victims, as well as those of a child and a man. FGM personnel also unearthed a disturbing collection of personal belongings of Mendoza's murdered and mutilated victims, including 12 cell phones, 12 phone chips, 28 tapes, and a VHS cassette, makeup items, clothing, wallets, and shoes. Adding to the macabre findings was a notebook containing a list of the female victims' names. Perhaps most chilling of all were the discoveries of dried facial skin and hair belonging to the deceased women. Undeterred, police, FGM officers, and forensic experts meticulously excavated every corner of the property, both inside and outside Andrés Mendoza's house. This extensive digging yielded a staggering 4,300 bone fragments belonging to an estimated 19 victims, believed to be women between the ages of 30 and 40. Upon his arrest, Andrés Mendoza confessed to the horrific act of consuming the flesh of his victims. This confession earned him the infamous nicknames the Monster of Atizapan and the Cannibal of Atizapán. Mendoza admitted to taking the lives of approximately 30 individuals between 1990 and 2021. This is a case of serial homicide with the largest number of victims we have had. At least during my time leading the prosecution, this is the most dramatic and shocking case, stated Prosecutor Alejandro Gomez Sanchez in an August 17, 2021 report by Infobae. According to investigators, Mendoza habitually collected Polaroid photographs of his victims after their murders and even filmed himself mutilating their bodies. Following the killings and dismemberment, the remains were buried on the patio of his home. During his trial on May 20, 2022, Andrés Mendoza confessed to meeting his female victims in nightclubs. Exploiting his unassuming appearance, short, stocky, with a seemingly gentle gaze, he deceived his targets, luring his new female acquaintances back to his house. Once inside, Mendoza would fatally stab his victims in the heart. After the murder and mutilation, he would typically cover the bodies with salt, a gruesome practice seemingly intended to preserve them. In contrast to one of his victims, Reina, whom he had known for 3 years, Andrés Mendoza would often visit Reina and her family at their home. He was frequently invited to dinner by Reina and Bruno. Their children were even close to Andrés Mendoza. The family felt sympathy for the elderly man who lived alone. They would often ask him for help repairing broken cell phones, painting, and fixing other equipment. But what Andrés Mendoza did to Reina shocked the other neighbors. Among the neighbors, Andrés Mendoza had always been known as an exemplary citizen. The old man lived alone. He had even served as the president of the neighborhood council in his residential area of Lomas de San Miguel, Atizapan de Zaragoza. His name was on the list of 100 people who received a donation of 600 pesos every 3 months. According to neighbor testimonies, with this money, Andrés Mendoza would buy balls for street children, instant soup for poor families, and paint for houses. However, his image as a model citizen crumbled when he was arrested on May 18, 2021. Following his arrest, The investigation by the Attorney General's Office of the State of Mexico has established that Mendoza committed femicides over the past 3 decades. Through deception or coercion, he brought women to his home to take their lives. It is unknown if he committed sexual assault, but he mutilated the bodies of his victims and buried them under the floor of the basement of his house. It was a space located directly beneath his bedroom. This case motivated Mexican lawyer and columnist Javier Tejado Dondi to produce a television miniseries titled Cannibal, Indignation Total. He is someone who for more than 3 decades killed women with total impunity, a very cruel person who knew how to deceive many people for a long time, according to Tejado. It is known that he frequently visited bars where he tried to seduce women and pay them for company. Rejection, due to his age or appearance, greatly angered him, and he would then act in a kind of revenge. He also lured some women to his home by posing as a facilitator of social programs, convincing some victims to accompany him. The Attorney General's Office of the State of Mexico reported on Monday that a total of 4,600 bone fragments had been collected at Mendoza's house, corresponding to 17 women and 2 men, one of whom was a minor. The man had a notebook detailing the characteristics of the women. There were several identification cards and belongings of theirs, as well as dozens of instant photos and videos of his crimes. Mendoza, who was interviewed for the documentary series produced by Tejado, spoke to the press in 2021. Things that have already happened must be endured, he told the Multimedios network. There is nothing more to fix, and what has already happened is because you don't have to endure anything anymore. He regretted one thing, but it was too late. During his detention and trial, Andrés Mendoza was initially held at the Tlalnepantla Penitentiary and Social Reintegration Center. However, on May 24, 2021, Mendoza was transferred to the Tenango del Valle Social Reintegration Center because some inmates in the prison tried to kill him. He now remains in that prison for the rest of his life. Andrés Mendoza was sentenced to life imprisonment by a court in Mexico in August 2021. The case of Andrés Filomeno Mendoza, the monster of Atizapan, stands as a chilling testament to the deceptive nature of evil lurking beneath a veneer of normalcy. What was initially the disappearance of Reina González Amador on May 14, 2021, swiftly unraveled into the horrifying discovery of a serial killer who had been operating undetected for decades. Mendoza, a seemingly harmless elderly neighbor and even a respected community figure, was revealed to be responsible for the brutal murders and dismemberment of potentially dozens of victims, whose remains were found buried within his own property. The sheer scale and depravity of Mendoza's crimes, including the disturbing confession of cannibalism and the collection of gruesome trophies, shocked Mexico and the world. The case exposed not only the unimaginable cruelty of one individual but also raised questions about how such a monstrous figure could have maintained a facade of respectability within his community for so long. Despite his outward appearance and even acts of local charity, Mendoza harbored a dark and violent secret that ultimately led to the tragic loss of numerous lives. The legal proceedings that followed his arrest served to bring some measure of justice for the victims and their families, forever marking Andrés Filomeno Mendoza as one of the most notorious and horrifying serial killers in Mexican history.